everyone. Thanks for joining Just Us Chatting. I'm Tamara.
My name's Michael, and this morning we are looking at a new ad that came out from Gillette. Looks like, I don't know, like a minute and 50 seconds. There's been a lot of buzz about it already. It's just came out yesterday, I think. Lots of people saying that it's misandrist and it's getting, ratioed. Let me show you real quick. You can see, I don't know if you can see this at the bottom of the screen here, but they're 70,000 likes to 320,000 dislikes. So there's been a pretty
strong
negative backlash against this video. And I figured we might just start by, come here, Bubs. Come on.
Come here, Boo.
We might just start by going ahead and looking through, let the video play so that we're all on the same page. I've watched it. I don't think Tamara's watched it, so we're just going to let it run.
I watched like a small part of it. Come here, Boo. Come here. Come here. Come here.
You're so protective.
Come on.
Come on.
You're a good boy. Come on.
Come on. Yeah, that's above us.
Lay down.
Oh, you're going to climb right in my lap, huh? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good. So...
The best men can be.
We believe the best men can be. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and let this run, and we'll take a look at it, and then maybe we'll talk about it afterwards. Maybe we'll pause it and talk about things in the middle. I don't know. We'll just see what happens.
Okay.
If I see anything particularly noteworthy.
Sure.
Or if you do, all right, we'll just go ahead and let this go.
Bullying. The Me Too movement against sexual harassment. Masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it? We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off.
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
What she says is
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie.
Come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way. Some already are. In ways big and small.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
Somehow we treat each other, okay?
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
It just seems a little disingenuous. It's like, it just feels like they're trying to jump on the bandwagon of SJW, and I don't know how I feel about it. It's not that the sentiments are all bad, you know?
No.
It's just that, like, why is my razor company telling me that I should be better than I am? Or, you know what I mean? Like, if that was Venus,
right.
The more feminine, razor company, and they were, like, trying to tell me, I don't know.
Yeah,
like that I should be a better woman, and that
don't abuse your children,
right?
And don't it's like thanks, I guess.
I don't know.
Why, like, it's weird that it's like this weird dystopian thing in the beginning. It's like, is this really the best a man can get?
Right.
And there's like this music, it's like this weird like kind of background. It's all like, this kind of like. It's like something you'd see in a dystopian future movie where and like there's bursting through the best a man can get is like this child running away from a bunch of bullies. Oh God, they're all gonna get me.
Yeah.
And it's like Seriously?
I mean,
I want to see Venus come out with a commercial that's talking about how women should abstain from relationship sabotage and reputational sabotage and gossiping and all of the worst stereotypes of women.
right.
We believe in women.
There'd
They can be good.
There'd be uproar about that for sure. It'd be similar to
why
this.
This
There might even be more uproar. There'd be the news would be
more.
talking about it, this company thinks women are horrible, and
Yeah.
But yet there's a backlash on this, but probably not in the media. It's not going to be mainstream news, most likely.
No, I'm sure it won't be.
Whereas if it was against women,
I just don't know why. What another thing though is I don't understand how a company that is marketing to men, specifically men who
Right.
shave,
yeah.
right?
Why would they want to alienate you guys?
What? Yeah. Why?
Or kind of denigrate men in a way,
Yeah.
and be we can do better than this. We're not doing so hot right now, but we
Right.
can do better. And it just takes you, standing up and
It's
telling your guy friend that it's not cool when he hits on a woman or something. I don't know.
I don't know either. First of all, there's that one scene. Okay, so there's one scene where the lady walks by and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go talk to her," and some dude who
Not cool.
doesn't know him or whatever, just kind of walks out. Not cool.
I thought it was supposed to be his friend.
maybe, but the point is
Why
it
is it
looked
not
to me
cool?
like just some guy walking out of the store. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just randomly touch people who are starting to walk.
Right.
Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. And it's not it's not like the entire history of Western civilization isn't built on the policing of male behavior to protect women. That's the whole thing. That's what the patriarchy is.
It's true. I mean, yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Feminism was supposed to be about women being
We can take care of ourselves.
we can take care of ourselves.
We don't need your
and-
protection.
Yeah, and
we don't need a chaperone
Yeah.
on a date, and we can go work for ourselves. We don't need a man to marry, and we can make our own money, and not that these things aren't true, but yet we still want men to police each other.
yeah.
And we still kind of do want men to not be, I don't know.
There's this new theory that I've seen. I think what you're kind of referring to is this thing floating around I've seen recently called hypo-agency or something like this, and maybe I'm wrong about it. I'm babbling out of my ass right now, but the idea basically goes something women can depend on the cultural perception that they didn't have any agency in a given situation, that they were the victim. Women can always depend on that. In they can always kind of depend on this kind of cultural kind of acceptance that a woman is, we see it in these things where it's if a man and a woman are both drunk and they have sex and the woman doesn't want it, then then she was raped.
Right.
Right? It's well, hold on a second. I'm not saying the woman doesn't want it in the moment. Okay,
Right.
sure, obviously.
The next morning she's feeling
But she's
bad about it.
crap, that was kind of, I wish I hadn't done that.
Right.
Right? It's all of a sudden her friends show up, well, you were intoxicated, you couldn't consent.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's true,
But
right?
somehow the man can,
But somehow
even
the
though
man's in
he's-
control of his agency.
Right.
Right?
I mean, it's a tricky thing because it's men can usually drink more.
True.
A woman can drink less before she's drunk
Right.
than a man can, generally speaking.
Right.
So it's he might have had 3 drinks and still be semi-coherent, but she might have had 3 drinks and be 2
Over the
sheets
moon,
to the
right.
wind,
Right. That's true. That's true.
But you're right.
The variance in levels of intoxication is one thing. The other thing, though, about that is that it's whoever is ingesting alcohol, it's kind of unless their drink is being spiked or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking about illegal stuff. This is the thing. Whenever I have these kind of conversations, someone comes at me like, "Oh yeah, well, women get roofied and stuff like this." Like, yeah,
it does happen.
That's not cool, and it's illegal. Like, I understand, right? But if you're saying that two people who are both intoxicated, right, have sex, and it's you got a man and a woman who are both intoxicated, and they have sex, it's the woman who couldn't consent.
Right.
That's like a ridiculous abdication of her agency.
And it's infantilizing. It's like,
exactly,
a woman, she just, she has no control over what she does if she's drunk. It's like, well, first of all, she had the she was drinking to begin with. She chose to drink. Maybe she should have been a little bit more. And okay, this is really touchy, I realize, because I've had guys try to get with me when I was wasted. Luckily, I had the, enough kind of awareness to be like, please stop, and they did. But it's like, it's a really touchy thing. So I'm not trying to say that rape never occurs when people are drunk. Obviously it happens. But we as women, we need to be careful. Like, if we're going to be out partying, like, maybe we should have a friend that's like, hey, don't let me drink more than this.
Right.
Or like, we need to have some responsibility for our own actions.
Yeah. And I totally understand the typical feminist response to that is, how about men just learn not to rape? It's like, thanks. That's great. But it's like,
true,
you wouldn't say, like, I'm just not going to lock my doors. Why don't we teach burglars not to burgle?
Right.
It's like, burglars are not, like, all people.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But they do exist.
Right.
Right? The same thing is, like, rapists are not all men.
Right.
Okay? And most, over 98, percent of men, like, a vast, huge majority of men
do not
aren't rapists.
But here's the problem is, like, alcohol, it lowers your inhibitions. It is kind of an aphrodisiac.
It confuses things.
It confuses things. So maybe you're, having fun with a guy at a bar. You're, maybe dancing, whatever, getting close. You go back to his place, and you start kissing and whatever. Things lead to sex, The next morning you might be, like, completely unhappy with your actions, but that does not mean you were raped. Right. You know what I mean? He was intoxicated, you were intoxicated, you were both in a less than optimal position to be making choices such as that,
Yes.
And when you're drunk, things are fun, and sometimes the next morning you realize, oh, normally I wouldn't have had sex with a guy that looked like that, or just, that I didn't know.
And it's very easy to kind of, like, it's very easy. Okay, human beings are kind of, our psychology, right? Like our sense of self, our ego, right? We just kind of reflexively find ways to repair our self-image.
Yes.
Right? So, like, that happens in all sorts of situations. I'm not just talking about that situation. It happens, like, okay, you want to talk about, like, a classic kind of, typically, like, masculine, stereotypical type of way of doing this is you got, I meant to do that kind of thing, right? Like, oh yeah. I was just joking. Like, a dude, like, falls on his face or does something, makes an idiot of himself or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, oh yeah, I meant to, like, yeah, totally. That was just a joke. I was, just playing, something like this. It's like trying to find a way to like pretend that I didn't, that thing that is embarrassing to me didn't happen that way. Right? Mm-hmm. It happens all the time in all sorts of different situations. And so taking a situation like the one you were just talking about, woman wakes up the next day and goes, ooh, this guy's like a 4.
Yeah. Well, it's possible that the guy wakes up too and is like, oh, I didn't, really necessarily want to have sex with this person.
Right, but the guy can't go. But if the guy goes, oh yeah, she raped me, like, everyone's like, yeah, dude, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, nobody,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just, like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like, sure.
Right.
Whatever.
And to be honest, it's more like, you both just were drunk, and it seemed like a good idea at the time, you know? So no
Right.
one's at fault there other than, well, each of them are at fault in a certain sense.
Right.
Because it's like, you're being irresponsible. You drank too much. You weren't being cognizant of what things were going to happen and
Right.
how you were going to feel in the morning.
Right.
You know, that's why it's like, maybe you shouldn't drink so much.
Yep.
You know, and we've all been there. Like, not there necessarily, but we've all drank too much and the next morning felt like stupid about our actions.
Yep.
Whether it was sex with someone we didn't want or just whatever. We were acting like an idiot, you know? So we've all had regrets about how we acted when, you know, well, for those of us who drink, you know, for people who drink, but, or have drank in the past, you know, you know the feeling. You used to be there. You don't really drink anymore, but I'm sure you had moments where the next day you were like, ooh, I can't believe I said that, or, you know, I can't believe I was acting like that, you know? So the same is going to be, you know, for sex. If you have sex with someone that, you know, maybe you don't know, or...
I lost my shoes.
Yes! Oh my gosh, yes, in Cocoa
Cocoa
Beach. And then you got your wallet stolen from you.
I lost my shoes. Someone stole my shoes and my wallet while I was passed out in a Denny's.
Yeah.
Like, because I walked into a Denny's because I was trying to find some place to buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I sat down at the table and nobody came over to help me, so I pulled out some money to let people know that I had money, and if they'd come talk to me, I would buy something, just so that I could ask them where I could go and buy a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
And that's where I sat, and I passed out.
And someone stole
And
your
when
shoes
I woke up,
and
my
your
money was gone, my wallet was gone, my shoes were gone. My
and
shoes.
it's like, okay, so...
and then they were like, you've got to get out of here. You can't be in here. The people who were running the restaurant came over and told me I couldn't be in there without shoes on.
I wonder if it was them or someone else.
Probably was. You know what I mean? It's probably somebody who works there on the third shift at the Denny's.
Regardless, it's like, okay, well, it was your fault for being so drunk and falling asleep that you got your... But it was also the fault of who... I mean, you know what I mean? It's like...
It's not like a flattering story to tell.
No.
It's like, oh yeah, I was such a lush that I like, you know, passed out in a Denny's and had my shit stolen.
Right.
Like, wow, that's pretty cool.
It was a shining moment for you,
a shining moment for me, right? Like, it's not, you know, but it's not like I went, you know, I mean, yes, we do things that we don't, that are embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we can't, I should say this, it's only the option of turning it into turning like an embarrassing sexual encounter into rape is only available to a woman.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It happens all the time. Like, there's one time in particular, had I passed out, well, and eventually I did, so who knows, but like, you know, this guy was trying to, you know, do stuff to me, and like, had I not had at least a little bit, like, because I was out, you know, I had drank way too much for my size. Had I not been aware enough to, you know, and had he been a bad person, but I mean, there was a house full of people too, so like, you know, I guess had I needed to, I could have like yelled or something, but I mean, it could have been a really bad situation, and, you know, it would have been considered rape, you know, but there's all sorts of times where people, they're both making a decision to make out with someone, and wherever it leads, and it's like, yeah, you might have been, you know, completely wasted, but so was this person maybe, or maybe he wasn't even that wasted, but he felt like you were consenting, so I mean, you were kissing him back, so like, where do we draw the line? You know, like, if you're passed out drunk and someone does something to you, okay,
obvious.
That's obvious. But there's all these in-between kind of things. It's like, it's such a ridiculously tricky situation, you know?
And so, I mean, you know, like, I'm not even trying to claim that, like, that's a super, like, common scenario that women are lying about being raped or anything like this.
Right.
Okay? I'm not trying to say that that's like common. You know, I don't know.
Who knows though?
I don't know. You know, but if Venus came out with a commercial that was like, you know, saying women need to stop lying about rape. Yeah. You know, and you need...
Or like, you need to stop lying about abuse so that you can, you know, get your kids in the divorce, you know,
this kind of stuff.
Or making, you know, accusations, or, you know, using your feminine wiles to do this or that. I don't know.
Yeah. And like, when your feminist friends are sitting around man bashing, you should stand up.
Right.
Like, maybe that
Yeah.
should be okay, right?
Right.
That what's wrong with that message? Is there anything wrong with that message? Like,
Well-
I think it's true that if you hear a bunch of dudes sitting around talking about how girls are whores or something like this, then you should be like,
Right. But
that's gross.
But why do we need a razor company telling us how to be better people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why? And I feel like it's so disingenuous. I feel like they're just trying to like pull at like heartstrings or pull at, you know, some kind of thing where they're trying to...
Well, I mean, it's a marketing firm. So.
Well, right. And I feel like in recent years, companies have gotten better and better with their marketing, like more and more kind of like, you know, putting compassion in their ads. And some of them have gotten me, you know, some of them have been like, oh, wow, like that was a pretty cool commercial, you know?
Yep.
But this one just feels a little shitty, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, so one of okay, first of all, I don't believe that feminism is about gender equality. I mean, if it was about gender equality, it could be called gender equality or egalitarianism or anything else. But it's specifically called feminism, specifically for the promotion of women's rights. You know, and it doesn't give a shit about men's rights. It just doesn't. And so to hear something like this, which is, you know, like you spend several decades, like since the 60s, maybe 70s, and really like turning point in the 80s, where it really kind of like flipped over, and it was kind of like I think it basically flipped from like, you know, from kind of a resistance to like broad mainstream acceptance of feminism in like the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And then it's been decades of this stuff still continuing. So you've got decades and decades of building a narrative about how fundamentally men are shit. And, you know, they're the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't call something the patriarchy. Like, it's not the patriarchy is the fundamental problem. What's the patriarchy? It's men. Men are the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Right.
And women who are on their side.
Right, and women and women who
or
like
who
them.
think that that men are actually decent people.
So
I'm part of the patriarchy.
yeah, you've internalized your misogyny. And it's sad to see them.
Do I need an intervention?
You need an intervention. You have a.
But anyway, sorry.
I probably need an intervention for
How
being
so?
so wound up about a razor
Commercial?
ad. Yeah.
Oh, but lots of people are, so
Lots of people
we're not
are.
the only
It's
ones.
true.
I mean, I'm not really wound up about it. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, right. Well, and there's kind of like this thing with the internet now, because we have the internet. Let me just pause this right quick. Yeah, 330,000 dislikes. Because we have the internet now, it's like, and I think this is probably happening on the other side too, on the kind of social justice side. But like everyone has a voice, and so I think as a culture we're not used to the volume that we have currently with the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It used to be people
The
got
volume of voices?
no,
or...
just the volume that like we can have
Yeah.
in the social space. It's like it used to be that, you know, people got riled up and they're, I'm gonna write a letter, you know, and there was no public knowledge of the people that were upset until someone was marching in the streets with placards, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, there's this big movement of people, you know?
Right.
Because everything was written on paper and it was
Right.
sent directly to someone. It's
Right.
like, you know, maybe there were a couple little editorials here and there that were, you know what I mean? But all of the chatter that happened at the individual level between people who are, you know, talking around the water cooler, or, you know, in men's cases, you know, in the ditches while they're digging trenches, you know, this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Also, of course, around the water cooler. But the idea is that, like, all of these little conversations were like, it was a question as to whether or not other people were having that conversation. You know what I mean? And then eventually it was like, oh yeah, it looks like a lot of people, let's go. We all go out in the streets, and then all of a sudden, whoa, there's people in the streets marching.
Right.
You know?
And
but,
you'd have to hear about, if you didn't live near there, you had to hear about that through maybe what, radio?
Or a newspaper or something like this.
But like, you wouldn't hear about it so immediately.
And so we're kind of used to it's like being in like a, you know, it's like being in some sort of a brand new, like, super responsive sports car, and it's like, shoot, you turn the wheel a little bit, and boom, you know, just hangs a corner like crazy, carves, you know? And, you know, because we're used to, like, turn the wheel, and, like, the wheels start to turn. They all just play in the wheel, and it's like, and it's like an old jalopy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of, people our age and older are used to, like, this old jalopy of a society where the cultural responsiveness, right, requires a lot of output, you know? And so it's like, well, this thing makes me, you know, I think probably the younger generations are kind of like, yeah, it's an ad, whatever, you know, I think probably.
Yeah.
And, you know, but then maybe not, I don't know, but it seems like we have so much more volume now, because all the people who used to, like, all that kind of chatter that used to be, you know, just around the water cooler, and we didn't know if other people were having the same conversation, is like actually a worldwide conversation, and we can see how many people are having the conversation in real time.
Right.
We look at this and go, oh, 330,000 people disliked this video in the last, like, 24 hours.
To, what, 76,000?
Yeah. You know?
So, yeah.
So it's
Right.
pretty, it's, you know, it's like pretty immediate, this responsiveness. And so it's like, and I think that maybe part of the whole, like, when, maybe that's got its own kind of feedback loop. It's like, oh, wow, I'm part of something bigger. I'm not the only one who's thinking this or something, right? And so, like, we all, like, pile onto it, you know?
Yeah.
And I imagine that's happening, like I said, I imagine that's happening on the social justice side too. Is it like it's like, oh, I can't believe that you know, prick said that. That's ridiculous, you know. And you're and like you're like, whoa, like
I got a bunch of likes.
Like
on
a
that
bunch of other
comment,
people said that. Like a bunch of other people are thinking the same thing. Yeah. And then you like go and you keep going. You know, it's like,
I mean,
keep this moving and like share it and talk about it and write articles about it.
And there's pros and cons to all of this, because then it's easy for us to stay in a limited mindset about something, because we do have other people that are joining us, and it's like we feel like they're part of our tribe or something, you know. So I mean, it could keep people stuck in their limited ideology, but I mean, we have access to so many different mindsets. Like, if we have any inkling that, like, we want to know what other people think, like, that's one thing that's, like, really I've respected about you, is that you look for different perspectives, you know, whether it's on politics or, you know, other things. Like, you actually seek out varying perspectives, you know, and
I'm so cool.
So, I mean, I think it's important to do, because otherwise you get stuck in an echo chamber, and you end up getting shown, you know, the articles and websites that align with your views, and it just kind of, it keeps, you know, making it seem like you're right, and like, see, look at all these people that believe what I do, you know? Whereas if you actually were to look, you'd find lots of, you know, opposing viewpoints.
I wonder, I mean, like, I think there's probably a lot of reasonable people in the center who like, this is something I wonder. It's like, it's also the in my opinion, this ad isn't just like one thing. Right? There's the words that it's saying, right? The sentiments that it's expressing in kind of like, it's like, hey, look, bullying is bad. It's like, yeah, What do you know?
Yeah.
That's true.
Right.
You know,
but,
and it's
I mean,
like-
girls bully too, for one. But
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead with that.
yeah.
But like, and then there's like, sexual assault.
It's bad.
It's
what
bad.
do you know?
That's true.
I needed my razor company to
You
tell
know,
me
it's
such.
like that's true. So yeah, on the one side, it's kind of like just the fact that these things are being thrown out there is it's the fact that they're being said more than the fact that like anyone disagrees with them.
Right.
And they come back around with this idea like, well, if you're upset about a message like this, then you're probably the type of person that needs to hear it. It's like,
It's just that we don't need companies preaching to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think most people know that bullying is bad. Most people, including men, know that sexual assault is bad. And that
Thank you. I would like to
and
personally stop right now and thank you for including men in a group of most people. I like that.
and most guys would kick the ass of any other guy that they found out was sexually assaulting or raping someone. I mean, you've got a perfect example. When you were growing up in that park in Oak Park,
Yep.
like, because people found just her, like, there was no, it's not like the person was literally, like, it was found by the court of law, yes, this person raped this girl, but people heard
Yep.
that this guy maybe raped this girl, and he got his ass kicked
Yes, he
by,
did. In the
like,
middle
what,
of-
5 people, 10 people?
a group of people.
A group of
And,
people.
like-
And that happens all the time. The vast majority of men will rise to the occasion and kick the shit out of any guy that they think has raped someone.
Yep.
It doesn't even matter if the girl is close to them. Like, if they, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's a protective instinct with most men
Yes.
to protect women and children.
Yep.
I'm sorry, and I'm not sorry actually, but there's a protective instinct.
Yeah.
I've heard of countless cases of people that were accused of rape, not necessarily found to be guilty, but accused of raping someone, and they got their ass kicked, or maybe even worse,
Yeah.
I'll
tell you something. Here's just a little tidbit. A different,
and I appreciate that.
Here's a different one, just to kind of tell you what about the rape culture that we live in. Okay.
Wait, sorry, real quick. I don't appreciate men kicking the ass of an accused rapist because
You appreciate the instinct. to protect.
yes, that's what I meant. I
know.
appreciate the instinct to protect women. Go ahead, sorry.
That's all right. I was going to tell this other story about kind of rape culture in America. When I was a teenager, kind of a older teenager, probably 18. I remember, I was out. I think it was like maybe Halloween or maybe some kind of holiday.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids from the neighborhood were out and drinking and
Yeah.
getting stoned and doing whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember it was probably pretty close to curfew, pretty close to midnight. We were like coming through this one park. Wasn't Austin Gardens. I don't remember which park it was. I can't remember the name of the park. It was anyway. It was a public park. Just big open grass field, some trees and stuff. And there was this girl. I think she was a freshman that year, freshman high school that year.
Okay.
Right? And she was like blackout drunk, and there was like a group of people, and everyone's kind of just laughing and whatever.
About the fact that she was?
Yeah,
or...
and nobody was like trying to do anything to her or anything like this, but it just didn't look like fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? It looked
Yeah.
like they were kind of making fun of her for being that drunk,
Right.
and that's not a cool situation to be in.
Yeah.
And it was a range of ages, all through high school and some older than high school, and just kind of people hanging out in the park, and they're all drinking, and this girl is like tiny little thing, right? Freshman, 13, 14 years old, and just
Yeah.
like not even, probably couldn't have even been like 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Not even.
Yeah.
Just this little
Like,
tiny
she could
thing.
probably,
A
one drink would
child.
make her drunk.
A child.
So beyond
and she
that.
was like, just like flopping, like, couldn't hold her
Yeah.
head up drunk.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
jeez.
And people were picking on her, and I
Yeah.
go over and I like, come on, I pick her up and I carry her off, and like I'm like, somebody go get her some bread, I'm like this kind of stuff. like, somebody get her some bread. We need to see if we can get her to throw up, get her some
Yeah.
water, you know, like
Yeah.
help her get out of this state, and,
Yeah.
you know, and then I put her in the hands of some other people that I trusted mostly, you know,
Yeah.
and who were kind of friends of hers and knew where she lived, and they took her home. Well, the next day in Scoville Park, I was surrounded by 4 dudes, right, who wanted to know why the hell this girl came home saying that she loved Michael Croteau. And they were ready to beat this shit out of me. They were like, I want to know what happened. I want to know what happened right fucking now. And I was like, whoa, 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 guys, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened.
But the thing
right?
is, if she was saying that she loved you,
Right.
she probably was. It was probably because she felt like you had.
She was in a drunk stupor being like, like,
Yeah.
right? And like,
Later that night? Or
when she got home that night, she was still all drunk and stupid.
And who were these guys that were questioning? Guys
friends
that
of
lived,
her brother.
They
and
lived
I think
it,
her
or-
brother and friends of her brother.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like I didn't know any of these guys.
Yeah.
But like just like a group of guys shows
Yeah.
up and they surround me and they're like ready to beat the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Right? Even though she said, like, she didn't, you know, obviously she wasn't like, oh yeah, he you know,
did something.
did whatever.
Right.
Like, it was she was expressing affection towards someone that they didn't know.
Right.
Right?
And they were like,
and she was really drunk, and
Right.
they were like, we want to know what happened.
Yeah.
So they came and found me. They came and found me, and they were like,
Yeah.
who the hell are you? What the hell happened? I was like, slow down, guys.
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly why she was saying that, what was going on.
Yes.
Right? She was really drunk,
Yeah.
and, you know, she was being picked on, and I just kind of jumped in there and was like, let's get this girl some bread and some water, and I, like, got her home.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I did.
Yeah.
And they were ready to kick the shit out of me on the suspicion
That something
that
might have
something
happened.
might have happened because
Yeah.
she was interested, you know, she was, like, happy about
And
me.
that is generally the case with
Men are
brothers.
very protective
or
of
friends
women.
of brothers or whatever. Yeah, people that.
Like, and I'm telling you, these guys were not feminists.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not like
No.
you have to be, like, enlightened by feminist ideology to be
No.
protective of women.
No.
Right? Or to think that bullying is bad. Like, it's
Right.
not the case.
Right.
So, you know, when I see these kinds of things, it's like this boring ideological, like, statements. Like, it's like, rape is bad. Rape is like,
Yeah.
well,
Like-
gee, what a revelation to everyone, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
How bold and brave of you to say so.
Yeah. It's obnoxious, really.
I don't know anybody who doesn't know that it's not okay to sleep with a woman who's passed out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like jump in there and start
Right.
raping a woman who's passed out. I don't know a single person who's like, yeah,
That's
she's not
okay.
saying no, so
Right,
you know, it's,
right.
like, I don't know anybody who thinks that. Not
I
a
know.
single person.
Yeah. And you've probably never even met someone, even that you know.
Actually, no, I know somebody. I know somebody who was a rapist.
You do?
I mean, like it's you know, like okay, so that one kid got his ass beat in the middle of the park, and there was another kid who, there are. This is the other thing. Like it does happen. There are bad people. You
I
know what I
know,
mean? But
I
like
know.
it's not like anybody's like going like, oh
I
well,
mean-
you know, it's okay.
I had predatorial men after me when I was like 15, and like, you know, they were like 25 or 30.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely had predatorial men, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But they, you know, it happens, yes, it does happen. But like, it's not the vast majority of men. The vast majority of men are good people, you know?
Mm-hmm. And like I'm kind of like again, I think that it is valid to say that the entire history of Western civilization is, and not just Western civilization, by the way, because this is kind of the way it has to work to like go through an agrarian period into a stable modern society. Stable societies are based on, are based on men controlling each other's aggression, and, moderating each other's aggression, and punishing each other for aggression in the service of the protection of of women and children. Like that's like the whole like social order. That's like it's men are supposed to be the wall standing on the outside of the camp, right, staring out into the darkness, protecting everyone from,
from
from predators and other tribes and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the like it's the idea that like men need to be disciplined, like the whole concept of masculinity comes from this idea that you need to be disciplined enough to be willing to give your life to protect people. This is kind of like one of the kind of core fundament, or at least, yeah, it's basically like a self sacrificing ideal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and this is the weird thing. It's like they talk about toxic masculinity as like, oh, well, men should be able to talk about their feelings and be stoic. It's like, well, here's how I feel. I feel like you're shitting on me.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
I feel like you're shitting on me the same way that we've always been shit on, right? Because we're honor bound to protect women and children.
Right.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being honor bound to protect women and children. You know what I mean? Like, we're bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, and we could have some looseness around those roles in the modern world. Women, women could just buy a gun,
right?
Like, protect themselves a little bit. But
I just worry that we're creating, or like, we're raising generations of young men that feel like it's somehow oppressive if they feel a protective vibe towards women. Like, they feel like they need to kind of step back and be timid and let the woman be the strong one, let the woman be the assertive one, the aggressive one, and they need to just kind of,
See, I think, and this goes to that weird like hypo-agency kind of thing I was talking about earlier, where there's like, I don't think it's necessarily that we're teaching young men that, but we're teaching them that and that they have to protect women. Right? So it's like,
this weird contradictory thing,
It's like, protect women. Women are women are strong and powerful and they're equal to men. But they but you should step up and and protect them. But they don't need your help, and like it's like
it's this
weird
dichotomy.
kind of like thing going on.
It's very confusing, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and to say the least.
And then it's kind of weird because it's like there's all these independent women out there who make decent money and they want to be, they want to maybe have a relationship, but they want to be strong and they don't want the man to oppress them. But yet, like, if they go on a date with you, they still want you to pay.
Yeah.
Like, that's a weird thing that I've noticed, know? And I don't know. It's just very contradictory.
I have to, like, just as long as we're kind of on that subject, I have to kind of point out that I'm like super, I'm super grateful that you've been like so non-rigid about gender roles in general since I met you. You've been just human and like not a performance of any stereotype as to as much as I mean, like, there was never any kind of weirdness about who was going to pay for what or anything. It was just kind of like, who's got money? Do you have here's the
we just combined it right away. Like, from like as soon as we moved in together, it was just like, all right, like, we're both working, we're both bringing in income, like, we just pay, like, we just like put it all in the same pot and we just paid our bills from there. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I grew up in a semi-traditional house, like, but even they had to be more fluid because, in later years, my dad's business was kind of slow. There were a number of years it was slow, so my mom ended up working full-time and paying more of the bills. But early on, he was working full-time and she was working like 2 days a week and raising us. So she was like working full-time, but 2 days a week at an actual job. but then taking care of us kids the rest of the time. So it was semi-traditional, you know, she took care of the household and the kids and all that. But then like in later years, they kind of had to be fluid and be able to switch the roles up a little bit,
Yeah.
you know.
It's well, yeah, and I mean, I really appreciate, I really appreciate that about you, that like there was never any kind of, I never felt like you were like I was like supposed to be something for you.
Yeah.
You liked me.
Mm-hmm.
And like you enjoyed my company, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a fellow human being that
Yeah.
I can like hang out with and talk with, and
Right.
so I just wanted to say that, you know, I think that's super cool, and I
Yeah.
wanted to show everyone our dog because he's super cute. Can I grab the camera?
Sure.
Check this out, you
Yeah.
guys.
Do you need help?
Let me check this out.
But of course he's got his eyes open. Right?
Let me like flip this around.
Look at that guy. He's just like curled up in my lap. Boo. He's such a little boo. Oh, your puppies. Oh, your puppies. Hi, puppers. Hello. Yes, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. My parents never taught me, like, oh, find a man that's going to take care of you. I mean, they wanted me to find a man that would take care of me, but, like, not
Right.
in the monetary sense, but just in, like, the general sense.
Right.
But also someone that I could help take care of as well.
Right. You could care for each other as
Care
humans.
for each other,
like, as
care for each
people.
other as humans, as your partner, as your spouse. And I've always enjoyed working, you know, to a certain extent, you know, not, like, all
Like,
the
ooh,
time. Yeah,
you know, I'm gonna
right.
like-
But, you know, when I was a massage therapist, I enjoyed doing that. And, you know, I've always done jewelry, and that I've always enjoyed doing that. And I just never thought of, like, oh, I'm going to find a husband that is wealthy and I can just, I don't know.
That's a good thing.
I mean, I've always had, like, kind of a drive that, you know, I would like to continually increase my abundance, but it's about more than that. And I just never thought of, like, finding a husband that was the purpose of a husband.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I met you, it was more just like, oh, wow, this person's really interesting, you know, and like we can do things together and
We
we
were
can
talking
be
about
partners.
that yesterday when we first met, and it was just kind of like I would say things to you, and then I would hear the words that came out of your mouth, and I can't remember the conversation we had at all.
Well, it was like 11
It
years
was 11 years ago, but like I remember the feeling of like our first night together, just sitting there talking, and I remember like from sitting on the steps at my, you know,
And then to the car.
and then to the car, and like wherever we were sitting, and just this constant recurring pattern of like I would say something to you, and then the stuff that came out of your mouth in reply, I'd just be like, wow. You're cool. This could keep going forever. Because you were just fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason. Like, I
Yeah.
met you, I was like, this woman's fascinating. So...
I'm not fascinating anymore.
No. And I'm sure I'm not that interesting anymore either. We know each
Well,
other.
it's actually surprising that even after like 11 or 12 years
I
that
know.
we're still able to have unique conversations.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
not
we
get
can-
bored with each other?
I mean, we can also have times where we'll be out on a walk and we don't talk at all. Like, we're just deep in our
Yeah.
own thought. But, like, the fact that after so many years we can still have good conversations and surprise each other, too.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Somehow that happened. That was nice.
Yes.
So, well, I don't know. It's been almost an hour, and I think that's way more than enough to dedicate to a, like, not even 2-minute video.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously we're not talking about just the video. We're talking about the culture and all this kind of other stuff. But this is a, you know, we have yet to see whether or not this is going to be an instance of the get woke, go broke phenomenon. I mean, it seems to me like Gillette is a company that specifically caters to men.
Right.
And so it seems like if anybody's going to get woke and go broke, it's a company like Gillette. Like...
Well, what I was thinking is, like, maybe a bunch of women will start using their razors because they'll be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
or-
as a way to fight the pink tax? Because Venus razors are so much more expensive?
I don't know.
Oh,
Is
same
that
company.
true?
Yeah, Venus razors are more expensive than Gillette razors. Pink tax.
So there is something to the pink tax.
There's more research and development that goes into it. There's more curvature and women's literally have more sensitive skin. They're shaving, like, this is rough.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But like, your inner thighs.
But I wonder if it'll get, like, a bunch of men will boycott them, but then a bunch of women that are, you know, happy about this kind of a thing from a company.
Yeah. The comments I've been seeing are, you know, I go, so like, let me go over here. Top comment is, end the violence, learn how to be together by not doing any violence. Learn what a man or boy can do to just stop being bullies in America. It's like, bullying's bad, violence is bad.
You see that? Would you like soy with that, sir?
Yeah, it's like, would you like soy with that, sir? Oh,
anyways,
Jesus.
we shouldn't probably be
Yeah,
showing.
probably not get into comments that were, but the point is, yeah, and I mean, Good Morning Britain is the latest Gillette advert, an attack on men. So this is an international conversation that's being had about this, about this thing, and it's just weird, you know. Like, I guess I understand why it's unfolding, but like, I'm kind of like, it seems like such an obviously stupid move for a company like Gillette to like do this as a marketing thing. Like, I know we'll get people to like us by, you know, implying that men are basically garbage and need to do better.
Right.
As like a 2-minute ad spot. Like, they, you know what I mean? Like, get your butt out of here. Get out of here, you. My goodness.
So crude. Such a man.
Toxic.
You're toxic masculinity, Morphe.
Toxic populinity.
I think it goes along with this whole thing where, like, large corporations are becoming politicized. You know, it goes along with, like, you know, Patreon and MasterCard and all that, deciding that they're not going to process certain payments for people who they don't like the ideology of, or they don't like their political views, or they don't like what you say, or...
So this is why I get really, you know, I get really upset at people who, you know, say, oh, they're just, you know, it's just this stupid, you know, college campus drama. It's not real. Right? It's real.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like like the indoctrination that's happening on college campuses that may be like super, you know, kind
isolated,
of vocal and like,
yeah,
you know, rambunctious.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that they're going to go into their, you know, job and be super vocal and rambunctious, but it does mean that they've been indoctrinated and they're going to,
it's going to start infecting all sorts of areas.
And so we've got so we've got all sorts of, you know, middle management bureaucrats and stuff like this who are basically dealing with, you know, HR and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Well, how should our employees interact? We've got men and women in the workplace. So if you've got men and women in the workplace together, you've got to have a really good understanding of feminism to understand, you know, how that, you know, how to manage that, obviously. Right? And because it's in our laws, you do have to have an ideological an understanding of ideological feminism, because the laws are based on it also, anti-discrimination laws, right? So there's a reason to have these ideologues in the company to make sure that the company is compliant with the ideological...
And then it's just condoning their viewpoints and letting them know that, like, hey, yeah, like, we want you to be calling out people and we want you to be...
Yeah, because, well, that's the ideology, and that's
infiltrating our company with these ideas.
And so, you know, you see, like, Jonathan Haidt was talking about how he's got, at, I think he's New York University, somewhere, anyway, he's got there's little posters, 8x11 posters in all the bathrooms that tell students how to report how to anonymously report
like other students or
and professors for microaggressions and infractions and bias and stuff like bias incident reporting, right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing this in colleges
If that's
now.
not Orwellian, I don't know what is.
It's coming because it's like the idea that won't get into the corporate structures in the future.
Right.
Is like if anyone who's on the left, like, okay, so I heard Ezra Klein and Jonathan Haidt talking about, doing a talk. It was a pretty good conversation, but it's just Ezra Klein keeps coming back to this, like, well, I think this is just college. Like, these are kids. They're in college, and they're but like that's so disingenuous,
right.
Because it's not like they're not ever going to leave college,
right.
and it's not like they're not taking
go out into
these ideas with them,
right?
Right. These are the colleges is where we're training the leaders of our of our country
mm-hmm.
and our institutions, for the next generation. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like the idea that it's just happening on college. It's like that is so. It's like it's so close to like being an absolute lie.
Yeah.
It's like how I don't understand how you can actually say that
yeah.
or make that argument with a clear conscience.
Yeah.
It's just college. It's just, kids are kids.
I think he's just not thinking about the fact that, in 4 years they're going to go out and be in the real world and they're going to bring their ideology to corporations, the government, education, like other educational systems, and
right.
it's just going to be like a never-ending cycle of SJW, far left Marxist ideology. I don't know.
That's it. There you go. Let's just end on that.
Let's end it.
Where are we at? I think we're about an hour in. The dog.
We'll probably talk more about this kind of stuff in the future.
Yeah, at some point. So, but I think an hour on a 2-minute video is good enough.
Okay.
And if you enjoyed this, hit like and like the video and subscribe to our channel, and you can follow us on Just Us Chatting on Twitter and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.